Hello learners! You are watching the second part of Google Search Console overview. Today it's more advanced video for users who already use Google Search Console but want to expand the knowledge and get some more meaningful insights. We will dive deep into metrics to understand them better, and I will try to show my tips and tricks how to get more meaningful insights for Google Search Console. So stay tuned, and if you haven't seen the first part for beginners, link is here. Let's go. What is an impression? You might think it's like obvious newbie question, but believe me, even I during preparing this presentation have found so many useful new ways to understand data better in Google Search Console. So let's review the basic metrics one more time. Impression is how often someone saw a link to the site on Google search, and for standard organic listings, 10 results impression is recorded even when it hasn't been scrolled into view. But even if user hasn't scrolled down the page, link to your site will be counted an impression. But it's not the same for all results. For images and video, users should see the picture to be or video to be counted as an impression. The same is with clicks. A lot of misconceptions appear. Click sends the user to a page outside of Google Search, Discover, or News, and it's counted as a click. Clicking a link that stays inside the Google platform is not counted as a link, it's just query refinement. If user clicks a link to an external page, returns to SERP, and then clicks that link again, it's counted only one. For images, as you see on a GIF, a click to expand a thumbnail is not counted as a click. So the next tricky thing is position. First of all, ads. They doesn't take part in a competition and doesn't occupy a position. In Google Search Console, metric averages a position value for all impression, and position value is just the average for all searches. For your specific search, your position might be different because so many things impact the results, such as location, your history of queries, and so on and so forth. So for me, tip is not to believe in this metric so much. Position is like average, one size fits all metric. You should check in incognito mode. You should double check it in SERP to get some meaningful insights, and don't blindly build your strategy on Google Search Console position. And for me, interesting fact was that Google, it counts position for knowledge panel like 11th position, because Googlebot scrolls the page and user sees the page from top to the bottom. So the knowledge panel will occupy position 11th. It's like an illustration how it's important to analyze the data before taking action and some meaningful decision. How to get insights from performance report. So many data is there, it's really easy to get lost. I would advise to ask these three questions. Which queries resulted in clicks on a site? Because it's really easy to miss the target, to miss the point of your brand. So always a good practice to understand which queries lead people to click, what they really want to understand their intent. The next question is which queries didn't bring you traffic. Maybe it will show you some misunderstanding of user queries when someone wants to find something else and accidentally find your site. So it's not better to build a strategy of this no-click queries. And the third question, which device audience use more often to get to a site? So Google switched to mobile first indexing a few years ago, and majority of queries are made from mobile devices, but nevertheless your site could be different. You always should personalize your analysis to see some meaningful insights. It's not the full list of questions, I just want to show you the best practice and how I do the analysis, because asking the question, it's much better than just blindly click on tabs to see and build your strategy without this general understanding of what is your site about. URL inspectation tool, we use it a lot to see how Google renders the page and doesn't contain any on-page bugs. But you should remember that it is not a live test, and status URL is on Google. It doesn't actually mean that your page will appear in search result. It just shows that URL could be crawled, could be indexed, but if, for instance, it doesn't meet Google search quality guidelines, it will be removed from search. But just don't think that URL is on Google means the same as URL is actually on SERP. Check it in incognito mode, check it in your location to see whether your URL is indexed. Live test insights could give you a lot of information about how Googlebot crawls your site. The live test doesn't check that your page confirms the quality or security guidelines or manual actions, content removals for temporary blocked URLs. It contains HTML version. You can diagnose whether the page contains certain canonical URL, metadata, no index, follow, and so on and so forth. It contains a screenshot, and it could give you some meaningful insights whether some, for instance, JavaScript elements wasn't crawled during Googlebot visits, which HTTP response JavaScript problems it has. So always good practice to look through this report and understand that Google see your page the same way that users do. URL discovery contains a lot of useful information, and yeah, not to lose time, I won't overview it one more time again. Just let's focus on some less known features. So for me, URL discovery drop-down filter is always under-evaluated metric. You could see all known pages which are discovered by Google through all different means. All submitted pages which were submitted Google via sitemap or find in robots.txt this directory to sitemap. Unsubmitted pages only. It's really insightful to check it at least once per month, for instance, to find some URLs which were found, for instance, through the internal links from the external sources to your site, but which are not in a sitemap. And it's always good practice to see included on sitemap or remove it from search. Specific sitemap URLs could also help you to see the status of particular sitemap URL in SERP. And URL is considered to submitted by a sitemap even it wasn't discovered through some other mechanism. So it could be confusing even if Google find, for instance, URLs through internal links, but it was in a sitemap which you submitted, it would be counted as found in sitemap. Yeah, our favorite part, page indexing reports inside, shows you which URLs indexed correctly, which has problems, and it will take plenty of time if I will stop on each problem. Let's focus on the most important points. So, source of this notification could come from Google system or from website. Pay attention to each problem. Metrics, crawled, currently not indexed, and discovered, currently not indexed. You probably in most cases should do nothing. It's just notifications that Google find the page, it's already counted in some Google database, but it hasn't have some resources to crawl it. Sometimes it might be a good idea to check a crawl site. We will talk about this later, to see whether Google has some problem with crawl budget, and that impacts these errors. But in most cases, if your site is new and Google sent that a lot of pages hasn't been crawled or indexed yet, it's not a problem. Just wait for a few weeks and check whether this number will be changed. But this notification duplicate, Google choose different canonical than user. It's always should be discovered by you, because somewhere on the web Google finds a URL with similar content and choose it in a canonical. Your URLs won't be shown and it will be a problem. So click on this problem and find this URL in SERP. Check it whether really you copied there in some way, not maybe accidentally, but you copied the content, and it should be unicalized to be returned back in SERP. Other common problems sources website, so it's not from Google, so signals which are coming from your website could contain alternative page with proper canonical tag. This page is a duplicate for a page that Google recognizes canonical. In general, nothing to do, but it's always a good way to check whether you really choose from a set of pages the right page to be shown. So just look through this report. If it's replicas of the main canonical page, nothing to do with that. Soft 404, it's when Google see a page as 404 status code error, but for some reason server returns 20 awk page. It always should be done something with that, because if your site contains a lot of these pages, it's just not user friendly, and Google will demolish your site from SERP if you have a lot of these soft 404 pages. Not found, one of the most common pages when for some reason link was removed and page wasn't redirected somewhere, it will show as not found error. Duplicate without user selected canonical, it's always not a good message, because you should specify from a set of products for a set of pages which page is canonical, so pay attention to that metric. Okay, the next important report is sitemap. If you have done some big changes on your site, yeah, it's always good practice to renew the sitemap, to add new pages and remove useless. But just resubmitted URLs in sitemap, it doesn't help, and Google in some way could stop paying attention to that signal. So please use that signal really wisely when you really make some important changes. If your sitemap fetch fails, either for the first request or after some scheduled recurrence, Google will retry for a few times, for a few attempts, but if it's continued to be unavailable, just stop crawling it. So it's better to remove the sitemap which is not fetchable, fix it, and then resubmit. Don't try just to do it for thousands of times, it won't help. Temporary block URL. Almost all webmaster SEOs know how to temporarily block URL, but less people know that it lasts only for 6 months. If the problem won't be fixed, Google could crawl your URL and put it in SERP again. And blocking URL doesn't prevent Google from crawling your page, only from showing it in SERP. So in some way, crawl budget on useless pages could be wasted. So always a good practice, after you temporarily block the URL, find and understand the reason why these useless pages appear, and then remove the problem, not just send it in Google Search Console. And less people know that safe search filters should be checked at least once per year to see maybe some pages, some content on your site considered as for adults. It could happen for different reasons. It's not only for adult-related websites. Sometimes it could be some attack on your site, and you couldn't even know about new pages which were added accidentally, or some content, part of the content which was added and considered as adult content. So always check whether there is some problems there with this safe search results filters. In this video, I don't want to focus on Core Web Vitals and mobile usability metrics. If you have some question, don't hesitate to write it below. On my mind, it's just so complicated topics, it requires to record another video for that. But just general recommendation to double check the errors from URL groups, because Google, you know, the Google crawls page. At that particular moment, when Google crawl a page, it shows the problem. So you should double check whether the problem really exists. Open incognito mode to refuse any useless extensions which could impact speed of your website. And then in incognito mode, open Lighthouse report, web dev test, and compare results. Really these groups contain the problems or not, and give some more insights before sending tickets to programmers. Tools. Yeah, this part come from old version of Google Search Console. A lot of tools are already deprecated from Google Search Console, but nevertheless, it's always a good practice, at least rarely, once per year, checks abusive experiences, abusive notifications. Someone could send you notifications that your content contains some not appropriate results, and it's always good to know whether your site has these notifications. Crawl stats. It's always not so obvious metric because it's not so easy to find it. It's in the settings section of Google Search Console, and here you could see how often Googlebot finds some problems with your host. A really good practice to see the statistics whether your server works fine, because in other way it would cause server's problems response. Crawl stats, not easy to find. It's inside the settings report, and here it's an overview whether Googlebot found some problems on your site. It's like a small piece of access log analysis. You could see whether Googlebot finds some errors on your server, and if you see that your server is not stable, consider to change your hosting, to change your server, to make it's more easy to Googlebot to access it. Check this report from time to time to find whether Googlebot finds some errors during 90 days. Crawl stats. It's a really good way to understand whether Googlebot finds some problems on your site during a few months. It's really good practice to check it, and if you see that crawl stat is not stable, for some reason crawl budget is reduced, and you see that server contains to get server error responses, it might be a case when you should consider change your server. And last but not least, links. Here you could get a lot of information. It's not like Ahrefs or SEMrush or some other big giants on the market which give you a lot of metrics, but nevertheless it's just first impression to understand which anchors are the most common for your site, which URLs are the most interlinked or external linked. And you will see like it's like a great way. Sometimes I see that SEO experts, they dive deep into particular metrics, DEA of the page and so forth, so deeply that they sometimes could lose focus on a general picture. Which anchor represents your site? Which site represents your brand? Google Search Console really insightful to see it in from a big point of view. Yeah, that's all for today. Whew, it was hard for me. Sorry if this video was a little bit confusing for you. If you have some question, don't hesitate to write in comments. We will try to find the answers together. And don't hesitate to subscribe to my YouTube channel so as not to miss new videos. See you in the next video. Have a wonderful day and bye bye.